In today's episode, we're gonna be installing the necessary tools. I have already installed, let's see, GitHub and Notepad++, and I have configured GitHub. We're gonna use it a little bit later, but I just came prepared. We are going to install Cypress FX3 SDK. We are going to install Microsoft Visual Studio IDE with the necessary packages. And time permitting, we will do a quick setup to enable the minimalistic IntelliSense support in Microsoft Visual Studio. Some of the parts of the video will be sped up because they will be like downloading, installing, and those pieces nobody wants to watch them in real time. So let's start with Cypress. So download Cypress FX3 SDK. And where does it get us? This one. You will need an account, but you can create a free one. It's not a big deal. You can use gazillions of free emails out there, so it doesn't really matter. I have already logged in, so it won't show up for me, but when you download, you will need it. Okay, Microsoft is suspicious of the executable, which is fine. While it's downloading, let's do another thing. Let's go and download MSVC IDE, and since I'm not in an English-speaking country, it will show something different, so let me go to the English version, free download. So we will have these two. Now, yes, I do want to keep it. This one is almost ready to finish downloading. Oh, Visual Studio, all right, because it will be downloading the rest later. We're still gonna start with Cypress FX3 SDK, just because I want to go step by step without skipping things. Okay, open file. So this is a more or less like empty windows, and I do know we're gonna get an error now. The error will be that it will require .NET Framework 3.5 or above, which no longer comes pre-installed with Windows. So that's a very easy fix. We just go to settings over here, and in here we say features, because we are looking for add an optional feature, and one of those optional features under the more Windows features, the very first one, in fact this one over here, is 3.5 framework.net. So it will ask if you want to I don't have the files on my computer. You'll have to download them, which will take a little bit. Come on, stop searching, just ask me to download. Yeah, that's a cache miss right here. When you think things should be faster with the cache, but if you miss, it's taking longer. Anyway, this is probably where I have a little bit of a time warp, because downloading and installing, there is nothing interesting here. Well, that took a hot minute, but now we can close that, and now we can try to install EZ-USB FX3 SDK again from Infineon. I suppose it was Cypress before, and this time it should be much better. So there are gonna be 3 or even 4 end-user license agreements, and I'm gonna do the right thing. I'm gonna agree to all of them without reading the text, because, well, we all know we can trust the big corporations and their text, right? I'm pretty sure there is nothing about selling my kidney or giving away my firstborn or turning me into human centipede in there. I'm sure it's all good, but just accept, and go to default installation folder, and again time warp. There we go. The installation wizard completed. Let's finish, and let's just finish off with installing everything we need. So we can close Edge by now. Yes, it's not Chrome, but I did not feel like installing Chrome just for that. Visual Studio installer. So here we will choose what's it called, the IoT development workload, I think it's called, or something like that, which will install the essential tools we need, and then we will click a few more buttons here and there. So first of all, first things first, dark mode. Oh my god. So scrolling all the way down to the toolset, we do want to go with Linux and embedded development with C++. And additionally, on the right side, we want to turn off IntelliCode just because there is a bug currently, at least. Yes, and get rid of Copilot. Currently, there is a bug that would fail to edit JSON files if I have IntelliCode, but I don't have the web package installed and all that. But we do want to click on Legacy Embedded and IoT Tools. It will install GCC that we can use instead of the one provided by the Cypress. So once we go beyond IntelliSense support and into actually building with Microsoft Visual Studio, we will need GCC from here. And this is it, and another time warp. So those who paid attention may have noticed that I unticked the checkbox which said launch after install, partially because I wanted to show one of the benefits of using Visual Studio over other similar things. There is an import configuration and export configuration. Let's click on export configuration and say we want to save it into this vsconfig file. Review details. You can add or remove things from here, obviously, but we're gonna just do as it is. So it will save whatever I have installed, whatever I have chosen to install into this file. So what that can be used for is someone else coming into my team and not having any idea of what and how to install. I could just tell them, here's the file, go import that configuration, give them this vsconfig file, or better yet, I put it into repository and save it with my code, and whoever comes into a team, they can just join GitHub repo, pull the code, and have the installation configuration already pre-selected for them, which is quite nice. And of course, the first useful feature for me was to go to the dark mode, which I love a lot. So coming back to, you know what? First, GitHub. Let's do the right thing and create the repository. Let me create a folder for that, because I want it to be on my disk S. I don't need to create a repository because this will create a folder and all that. So file, new repository. There we go. Repository name. That would be embedded ++. And the path to that would be on my S disk. I will set my gitignore manually, but I do want to include MIT license, which basically says anyone can freely use, modify, redistribute, even sell the code from this repository as long as they include the reference to the original author of the code. So let me create the let me see, description. Yes, let's say description embedded ++ for YouTube channel. That's it, good enough. I will probably do readme later. I don't want to spend too much time on that. So create repository. I think we are good. Let's see what we have. We do have the repository. Here is the directory. It's empty. There is license in there. Okay, history will show that there is a license. So what we'll do next is we will get the sample project from Cypress that we will be playing with, which is under program files x86, under Cypress, under EZ-USB 1.3, firmware, and the almost last one, UVC examples. And we're gonna do the UVC in memory bulk, mostly because I want to use the bulk interface USB pipe endpoint. So let's copy from here and let's paste into here. And we have basically our first commit, I suppose, because this will be initial Cypress SDK sample commit. I suppose that would be good enough, and that is Cypress FX3 sample UVC in memory over bulk endpoint. Let's commit to main, and what we have now is well, even some history. Great. Next we go to Cypress. Let me do a few more things so they're easily accessible. Cypress suite pin to start, and Studio as well, because I'm gonna be using them both. Cypress will, well, Eclipse will ask where do I want to put my workspace. Initially I thought it does matter, but I came to realization it doesn't really matter. So initially I tried even to have it in my repository, but I abandoned this idea because it's very localized, it's very specific to the computer, so default location is basically fine. Use this as default and don't ask again. What we're gonna do though, we are going to import that project into the workspace so that it's accessible when we open the workspace, because projects are part of works. Anyway, import, and let's navigate. Well, we are going to import a general existing project into workspace. That's the one which will be coming from our source drive S, and actually this is exactly where it's coming from. We don't want to copy project into workspace because we want to keep it at its original place in the GitHub repository. Otherwise we'll have a copy of it in the workplace, and when we modify files it will not be reflected in the GitHub, which is not what we want. We want it to be not there. And there are no nested projects, so nothing to worry about there. Finish. It will get the initial thingy. So here is our project. We have our files that we can open, edit, modify. They are in this place over here. It will also create a .settings file, which probably we don't want to see, which we will put into ignore. You know what, let's start with that initially. Yeah, you see this blah 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 settings XML. I don't want that to be as part of my repository, so I either exclude all the XML files, I exclude that one file, or I get rid of the whole folder, which is exactly what I want. Anything that ends up in .settings I don't want to be part of my repo. It should be like invisible folder essentially. And it did create the gitignore for me, which I will not be committing yet because there will be more files, more exceptions to add in there, or rather more exclusions to add in there. Let's do a quick check. Our project has build configurations for all four. There's a debug, there's a profile debug. Essentially the difference between the two is that profile debug ThreadX operating system is built with extra data structures and extra code to keep track of like stack usage, of CPU load, of thread invocations, preemptions, of mutexes, and that kind of stuff. Same for release. There is a pure release and there is a release with the profiling built into it when you need to figure out, for example, why your code is so slow, I suppose, or if you're running out of stack space. So let's hit Control B for build, which will, no, let's just always run in background all of that stuff. Let's go to console and see what's going on. Build finished. It took some 9 seconds because it is on a virtual machine and it's running on a magnetic spin disk, which is not extremely fast, but I don't care about this. So this is our step number 1. What it will do is it will create debug folder, as you can see here, and there would be one for release. Let's just see how that goes. Project, let's do the profile release, which will create the profile release, of course. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. We obviously don't want either one in our repository because these are temporary essentially. And look at that. Cypress was smart enough thank you very much, to add this into gitignore, which is specific to this particular place only. See, there is a global gitignore in a root, and there is one extra gitignore specifically for this UVC in memory bulk project. I don't particularly like it that way. I usually prefer to have it in my top gitignore, mostly for the reasons of if I add another project here, I don't need to reset up everything else. So let me edit it with Notepad++, which is the reason I installed it, obviously. And again, as you know by now, I prefer dark schema, so this is how it looks like. And let me get these two lines copied and put in here, because I just want them to be invisible. And on top of that, of course, I want profile debug, and I do want non-profile release. So these two, which means I can safely remove this one, discard this change, just get rid of it. Okay, so this is looking better now. I'll minimize that for now. With that said, this is a good initial gitignore. So let's just say initial, did I spell it right? I did not. Initial.gitignore for Eclipse. Gitignore, I did spell that one right. Commit to main. Yeah, we are still doing it in the main branch. For now, there is little reason to do it in sub branch, although maybe eventually we'll do it, but not today. Not today for sure. We have the code, we can build it, it's buildable, it produces binary, it's doing the stuff, it actually resolves errors. There are no errors, there is only one problem somewhere, no break at the end of case. Yeah, this is a C. I'm not sure C has facility to deal with that. Like, there is a comment here which sort of helps, but not to compiler. In C++, as we all know, there is a false through attribute that can be added. So with that said, next step is Visual Studio. What we're gonna do is we are going to open this folder with Visual Studio. We can do it from Explorer, as I've just done, or if you're already in the Visual Studio, you can go to File, Open Folder, navigate to the folder and open it. It's the same exact idea, the same exact result. The first launch takes a bit of time. I suppose it's setting up things, and it will probably ask me to sign in. I don't want for now. Just skip dark development settings. I'll do C++ mostly. Start Visual Studio. It will do some presets which I may or may not be very familiar with. I might just offline do a sign up and it will bring my particular settings that I'm more comfortable with, but the default should be good enough. I don't foresee any significant issues with that. So the goal now would be to set up IntelliSense, because this is like the step number one. Bring the code into editor that helps working with the code as much as possible. And there are a few things that we will have to do for that. So first and foremost, what I will probably do, I will get the window into non-full screen mode. Let me drag it over here. Good stuff. And this one will be on my other side. Okay, that is a little bit better. I don't care about what's new. What I do care about is how do I properly open this file, because now when I open the files, Visual Studio has no idea what to do with them, how to deal with them, where do header files, for example, come from. I mean, the local one it can find, obviously, but anything that's being referred to down the line, let me find something like, yeah, this one. It should not know where it's coming from, and it does not. CY-u3os.h is somewhere, it doesn't know where. So we need to help it understand where it is. And with that, we go back to Cypress USB EZ suite. There is this includes list that we can open up, which has a whole bunch of include directories that are necessary for us to, well, work with the project. So what is the best way to get them? Let's hit Windows key X and get our PowerShell. Although I think I meant to get the command prompt, because I don't remember all the things, so I'll just switch to command prompt easily. So what we are looking for are the environment variables that we can use to simplify our life, because you see this path I did install it into default location. It's not necessarily the case that someone else in my team installs it on C drive. They may run out of space on C drive, they may have a separate disk for this, like fast NVMe disk, which is not C for the older computer, who knows. So what I need to do is to set it up in a way that it uses predefined environment variables that will point me into the correct proper direction. No hard-coded passes, essentially, is what I'm talking about. And what we have here is this is one path that we need, arm gcc install path, which will lead us to these includes. And also we should have, as we go, FX3 install path as well, that will lead us to where the FX3 is. And there is a wlib, yeah, okay. So with that said, so now we have these guys. What we do here in Visual Studio is we go to no configurations, and we do want to add the configuration. So manage configurations. What it will do, it will either open or in our case create a CppProperties.json file. It doesn't really matter what we base it on. I would choose min-gw64 just because it has fewer things to remove. Since we are not doing the build in Visual Studio yet, we will not be inheriting any environments yet. We will name that one something like IoT release for now. We will redo it later on. So the include passes is what we're interested in here. The syntax is, well, this obviously $ open curly brace and close curly brace signifying the use of a variable, and this env dot says that this particular variable is coming from the DOS environment, from the Windows like operating system environment, not from inside this file, because there are also ways to specify in this file your personal environments where you can create variables and then refer to them as well. So what we need, let's start with this FX3 install path. So I suppose that it did auto select for me. Let's check. Did it copy paste? Yeah. So FX3 install path, and then as we note over here, it will do the path up until 1.3, and then we do need to add, we can use / by the way to simplify our life a little bit. So it's firmware lib 135 inc, and just for now we can just save that much, and we will already notice that this, for example, file should be accessible, because now if I click F12 while on it, it will take a hot second, but yeah, it knows where to find it now. So we are one step closer. We still need to get other files which specify like platform specific things, and those will all come from arm gcc, which is over here, which is this guy over here, arm gcc install path. So let's be lazy and duplicate this one with Ctrl-D, and then we just put install path in here, and this was going up to arm gcc. So what we have here is going to be arm non-eabi /include, That would be the first path. And then the second one, that's Control D again, is going to be in lib gcc arm non-ABI 4.8.1, and I'm sure we can use ARM GCC version instead of 4.8.1, which, you know what, let's do the right thing. It's always better to do the right thing initially instead of complaining about things not working the way you expect later. So again, it's a env dot name of the variable, and is it include? It is include, and then the same one with include fixed. I wonder what that is, but currently I don't really care. So with that, what we have here is the name IoT release, which you can see now is over here, IoT release. It will be one of many eventually, but for now we just want to have syntax highlighting working correctly. One other thing we will need here would be defines. So if we go back to Eclipse, we right click on the project and we go to properties, or we go through the menu obviously. We go to, I think it was in C++ build variables. That's one of them, but that's not exactly what I'm looking for. Settings, I'm looking for pre-compiler. The defines is what I'm looking for, because there are some defines. Why is it so slow? I don't know. There we go. Preprocessor. There we go. This is what I'm looking for. So currently we were in profile build. Don't remember whether it was release. I think it was release profile, right? Or debug profile. Anyway, this second define is for profile builds, and the first one is just to specify, to let Cypress SDK know that there is a ThreadX library operating system being used. So this goes into, actually let me do the right thing and show you where information comes from. So if we go to, I suppose right here, and we say CppProperties.json schema, it will lead us to the reference. There we go, Microsoft Learn. And in here we will see, I think it's called defines. This lists macros that should be defined, which is like /d for most compilers. So let's do that. What we're gonna do here is, let's do it after include path. Don't really care. Defines. Oh, it does have a IntelliSense support. Okay, tab out of here, and it knows it's an array. So for this array, the first define, can I copy from here? Oh yes, I can. Copy and paste. There we go. That's our first define. And you know what? Since we are doing profile release, let me just do it. Profile release, and in here we will have the second define as well, so we have easier time copy pasting later on. And the second one. Okay, so now when we navigate through the code, the IntelliSense will know that these two defines are set to 1, and it will conditionally enable or disable pieces of the code appropriately. And now what will happen is we can edit files here. To me, it's a more preferred way of editing. Let me just save this file, pretend it was modified, Control S, and when I get back here, it will say if it was opened. This is in memc file. Yeah, it says has been changed. Would you like to replace editor content with these changes? Yes, and when I do the build, it will build with the new changes of the file. Anyway, going back to GitHub, let's see what we have here. Oh, we have a whole bunch of other stuff that we don't want to be part of our build, which would be .vs file, which is Visual Studio thing. So you know what, we can just edit manually. That would be the fastest thing to do. And the same for settings. We don't want settings from anywhere to be part of this. And also .vs. Save this file, go back here, and it's much cleaner now. Let me say IntelliSense is minimalistically set up. Minimalistically, is it single L? Ah, I suppose it is. Okay, commit to main, and with that let's publish the repository, which is all that. You know what, before I publish the repository, can I just have all of these squash 4 commits? Okay, let's squash them all together. That minimalistically is still not happy. I think it's double L anyway. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna improve the commit text. We're gonna say Cypress SDK sample UVC in memory over bulk IP with .ignore for Eclipse and MSVC IDE. And with that we also want to change that. No, we don't. That's exactly what we want. IntelliSense is minimalistically set up. MSVC. IntelliSense is minimally, I think is the word I'm looking for. Right, there we go. Minimally. It's happy now. Okay. And let's squash them all into one commit. And now we are ready. Yeah, there is one commit which has all the things in there. Publish the repository, which is named embedded pp, embedded ++ for YouTube channel. Not going to the organization. Keep this code private. No, that's gonna be public because I want you guys to be able to refer to it, and publish the repository. This will conclude today's episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.